We created Free because someone had to stand for the addicts and loved ones of addicts who were suffering in silence, for the spiritual refugees who didn't have a place of belonging. A traditional church model doesn't create space for the conversations we know have to be had. Free is standing with those who are barely hanging on, who are longing for something new. Free is bridging the gap between spirituality and recovery. In this place, God meets us exactly where we are. This is what we stand for.
What's so funny, Christian? Huh? I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. We're not going to let those two sit together ever again. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Free Recovery Community. It's a community for addicts, loved ones of addicts, and spiritual refugees. If this is your first time, or maybe you've been here before, and especially for those people that are joining us online and from the treatment center, I want to welcome everyone here tonight. So Free Recovery Community, is, like I said earlier, is for those affected by addiction. And we're not a 12-step program. We don't work steps, but most of our members actually do. Also that means if someone's snapping pictures or something, you don't want your face in it, just ask them not to do it. We might not follow all the traditions, but we still try to be respectful. Go ahead.
Oh, here at Free Recovery, there's something that we do not do, and that is shame. So at the count of 3, say that with me. 1, 2, 3.
We don't do shame. A couple of quick things before we get the show on the road. And the first one is we'd love a chance to connect with you. So whether it's your first time here or you've been here before, we have Connect cards on the table back there. Peter, who's our guest storyteller, will be around. So just fill one out and hand them to him. He'll give you a coffee mug as a thank you. We just send a weekly newsletter that kind of gives you a preview of what's going on, any announcements that we have, as well as if you put your phone number in there, be warned, I'll probably text you and ask you for coffee, and that's the only time we'll use your phone. So feel free to connect with us to learn more about the community.
You could also volunteer to help with setup. We get here at like around 5:36. There's a bunch of people that put this all together. And if you want to volunteer, you can just scan the QR code and sign up. We just set up, tear down, hospitality. What's AV?
Audio visual.
Oh, there you are.
Yeah, we don't want Ryan to have to do it every week. So we'd love to get a team together to support Ryan. So, yeah. Next, I think this is next weekend, right? Yeah, it's next weekend. And last we checked, we had like 2 people signed up. Is the team 6? 6. Well, me and Justin are signing up, I think, right, Justin? So we still need 2 more people. I imagine Matt's too cool, so he's probably on another team already. So we need 2 more people for our bowling team for the Roundup Bowling. So reach out to Ed if you have any questions on that.
Can I make a suggestion about that?
Yeah, what's up?
So if you want to donate or something, but you don't want to do the bowling, and you want to sort of sponsor somebody from Bonaventure, we do have some people at Bonaventure that would love to do it and might not have the means to do it. So if you just don't want to do it, but you want to support, then let one of us know and we can pass it on.
Sweet. Yeah, and if there's anyone that wants to do it but can't afford to do it, talk to me. Cool. I will personally sponsor. So I can do that. So here's the flow of the gathering tonight, just so you know what's coming up. We're going to start here in a second with celebrations. So celebrations, we'll just pass the microphone around and we'll share what's going good, what we can celebrate together as a community. If you're online or if you're at a treatment center, you can have your case aid text Louise, and Louise will share on your behalf. So both for celebrations and heartaches. So after celebrations, we'll have about a 15-minute message that centers around recovery and spirituality. Followed by tonight, we have a guest singer as well, Katie. She doesn't only look like Brandi Carlile, she sounds like her too, and is probably performing her. And by probably, I mean I know she's performing her. And after that, as I teased earlier, Peter will be our guest storyteller tonight. So let's hear for Peter for being the guest storyteller. And then we'll close with heartaches. Heartaches are those things that are just too heavy to carry out of here on your own. So we want to be a community to share with each other what we're going through. Last week, a group of some of our leaders went to Denver to see the free recovery community there, which is about 8 years old, and we're 8 months old, so we're in very different places. But those moments of celebrations and heartaches really do turn out to be some of the most meaningful moments of the night. When we wrap that, we will pray, and we'll wrap up for the night. So now that we got the syllabus or itinerary out of the way, let's open the floor for celebrations. And I've been talking to y'all, so I know there's some.
Hey, everybody. I would like to celebrate that one of our own who stopped coming because he went back out over a month ago has come back in and got admitted to Rosecrans. And so let's say a prayer that this guy has hit his bottom. It's on the road to recovery.
Yep.
Hey everyone, Donnie, addict. I just want to celebrate that I'm sitting here with my dad. You know, a couple weeks ago, we hadn't spoken to each other in over 25 years. So I'm just really glad to be here with him. You know, I never thought I'd be sitting with one of my parents in a recovery-based meetings, and you know, let alone my father. So I just want to celebrate that tonight.
Woo! That's a good one.
All right, pop your little paws up.
Happy little paws up.
I'm Lennox. I really want to celebrate. I had one of the most intense cravings a couple days ago that brought me to tears, and I was able to get through it and stay here today and be sober. So, yeah, I'm grateful for that.
Hi, my name is Sam, Donnie's dad. I just, I'm a long journey in recovery, off and on, back and forth, a long, drawn out story, and I'm seeing my son go through this. So it's nice to be sitting here today, and neither one of us are using, and that addiction spoke to him, and I didn't even have to say a word because he understood what I went through when he was just a child. So now he's dealing with this. But today, God is good, and we're both here, man. And ain't none of us on no drugs, and or anything else, you know. And I'm just grateful to be here, and grateful to have my son back.
Absolutely. Woo.
Christian, I just want to celebrate being back. I was out for about 3 weeks, and yeah, being welcomed back with the open arms that were always here is a blessing. So thanks.
Woo.
Somebody go.
The timer's just a suggestion.
Well, I just didn't know if anybody else was going to go, so I was just saying. I'm proud. I celebrated another year. I'm not proud. I'm just happy I celebrated another year on Thursday.
Woo. A year being on God's green earth.
57 now.
Great skincare.
Hi, I'm Aaliyah. I just want to celebrate my friends, and because I love you guys. I love all of you, my friends and my newer friends and associates, and also just like going out and having a really fun time these past couple weeks. I know like my usual is like being isolated and sleep. But like the past week and a half, I've been going out nearly every day, enjoying the weather. So I'm just really happy, and I want to, celebrate that.
Woo. I can attest to that. Me and Justin saw you and Lennox walking down the street. Yeah. And one last celebration. I already have a mic. I just want to celebrate like the group of people that went to Denver last week to check it out and see what it's like in Denver and just spend some time together. And I thought, I'm proud of them for coming through. So, yeah.
Should I have stayed up there?
doesn't ask permission. It just changes everything. One day you know who you are. Then suddenly, you don't. This is the
Well, there was supposed to be a video with
where
that, but it
everything
doesn't look like it
shifted.
came through.
But you haven't caught up. If you've ever asked, who am I now? This is where we start digging.
Is that you, God? Just kidding. There was a video with that. We'll get it for you next week. So tonight we're starting a new 5-part series called Who Am I Now? The underlying tones are finding purpose and recovery and following God's direction in our lives and kind of that whole vein. But one thing we have to kind of start off with, if we're going to talk about change and finding purpose and all that, there's one thing that often triggers that. And it's something that's not very comfortable or not very exciting. And it's something that we've kind of talked about a few times, but it's just the appropriate place to start. And that's pain. So pain is one of the few things that every single one of us understands. And physical pain often makes sense to us. You get a sharp pain in your chest, you don't ignore it, you go to the doctor. You break a bone, you don't just push through it, right? You go and get it set. Pain in the body is a signal, and it's not necessarily a problem, even though it kind of sucks, but pain is actually usually pointing to the problem. When it comes to our lives, maybe our relationships or our identity, we often treat that personal pain or that emotional pain completely different. We'll hide it, we'll numb it, we'll push it down, or we'll simply pretend like it's not there. Because somewhere along the way, we started believing the lie. The lie that if we're in pain, something must be wrong with us as a person. That pain means that we failed, or pain means that we're weak, or that pain is something that we should probably be ashamed of. So we just put on a happy face and pretend like it's not there. But what if that story or that narrative simply isn't true? What if pain isn't the actual problem, but ignoring that pain is? So a few years ago, I was working in investment real estate, and you're probably tired of me talking about this, but it was so terrible, it gave me a lot of illustrations. That's actually where Katie met me as a real estate finance bro. So on paper, everything was actually really good. Like the pay was good, the hours weren't terrible, and it was kind of the job when you told people about it, they go, oh, you're doing really well in life. Everything looked right, but something felt kind of off on the inside. And I couldn't quite explain it at first, and it kind of started as just kind of a nagging feeling. It wasn't an obvious pain. But the longer I stayed, the more I started to notice something. Every interaction, not only in work, but outside of work, was a deal. Every conversation I had was an angle, and every relationship had a transaction underneath it. Everything came back to money. I found myself being greedy and selfish. And over time, that didn't just stay at work. It started to shape how I treated other people, how I talked to other people, and how I saw other people. And eventually, I started to feel like a transaction too. And I wasn't a person anymore. I felt like I was more part of a machine. I was miserable. And that's when the pain started. Not the physical pain, but something deeper. This sense of I built a life that I don't actually want, and I don't know what to do with that. So I did what a lot of us do. I tried to fix that. Not by changing my life, but trying to make the pain go away. First, I tried to spend it away. Anyone tried to spend it away? Yeah. A few hands in the room. I bought nice clothes and a decent house, but that didn't work. So I went into like a full self-improvement mode. And has anyone ever met any of these people that are in like full self-improvement mode? Like they're kind of intolerable, right? I started running more. I started signing up for races. I ran an ultra marathon. Like what human being needs to run 54 miles at once? No one. I tried eating perfectly. I tried cutting out processed foods. When this like physical self-improvement didn't work, I started trying to do this like rapid fire spiritual self-improvement. I prayed more, I meditated longer, I studied scripture deeper, and I started going to church more consistently. Like I was all in, searching for this magic pill to make the pain go away. And don't get me wrong, none of these things are bad, right? The spiritual stuff was actually pretty good. The spiritual endeavor ultimately led to a solution. But the other stuff wasn't that bad either, right? I got healthier for a season. But I was doing all these things looking for some magic pill that would all of a sudden make me feel better. Like if I just did enough, disciplined enough, prayed hard enough, maybe the feeling would go away. But it didn't. Because I was trying to change, I wasn't trying to change my life, I was trying to outwork the pain. But eventually something shifted. Probably because that focus on my spiritual life led to some unintended results. Not all at once, but slowly. I kept praying, honestly and even desperately at times, using that third step prayer, trying to grasp at God for something. And at first I did the third step prayer hoping that I could find the key to fix everything. That magic key. Has anyone ever looked for the magic key? Yeah? How many of y'all was it a man? Just kidding. Not Katie. But the longer I went on, the more open I became to the way that God was directing me. The question started to change from how do I fix this to what is this trying to show me? And if you've ever asked yourself a question, that can be a pretty dangerous question. Because once you start asking it, you can't unhear the answer. The pain wasn't random, it was trying to tell me something. That this life isn't it. This isn't who we are, this isn't where you're supposed to stay. And eventually I listened. I left the job. And I walked away from a career that made sense on paper to go back to school to try to retool my life. Not because I had all figured out, because that pain had become too clear to ignore. For those of us in recovery, this concept should be pretty easy, right? When our addiction stops being fun, the first thing we try to do is fix it. Use less, only on the weekends. I think the big book says taking a trip, not taking a trip. There's a whole paragraph that's hilarious. But when that pain persists, even if we're lucky, we get more open to what we might need to start changing. Eventually, we're open to taking suggestions and changing our whole, as the big book says, attitude and outlook on life. And there's this moment in Scripture that Paul says something that hits on this moment. It's in a book called 2 Corinthians. Like most of the New Testament in Scripture is just letters back and forth, and we only have one side, so interpret it as you may. But in 2 Corinthians 1, 8-9, Paul says, we were burdened beyond what we could handle so that we could stop relying on ourselves. So that's not like some polished, froofy answer, right? That's not inspirational fluff. That's someone saying, I hit a point where I couldn't do it anymore. And notice, he doesn't say that it was failure. He says it was a turning point, because sometimes it takes being pushed beyond what we can manage to finally realize something has to change. So here's the truth. Most of us don't change when we see the light. Did anyone get sober on the best day of their using career? Anyone in the room? No, right after you hooked up with a supermodel and drank champagne and woke up with no hangover. No one? Not a single person in the room? Anyone online? Drop it in the chat. We'll definitely get to you, because I would love to talk to you. So most of us don't change when we see the light. We change when we feel the heat, right? Pain is often the first honest thing we felt in a very long time. And pain eventually can become clarity. Something I want to be very clear about this concept is that pain has the potential to do it. But once you kind of absolve the pain, if you go right back, you're just in a miserable cycle. And I know many of us, myself included, have been stuck in what is the misery go round, right? The doctor's opinion says the misery go round. But pain can become clarity, but it only becomes clarity when we stop numbing it long enough to listen to it. So let me be clear on something, though. I think oftentimes there's this concept, it's called theodicy. Anyone know what theodicy is? Here's the new word for you tonight. Katie knows what theodicy is. I'll let Katie tell her own story, but she's a recovering evangelical. Theodicy is this big question of why does bad things happen to good people? You know, and there's one school of thought in theodicy that says, oh, God sent it to you. You know, God sends his hardest battles to his strongest soldiers. Have you ever heard that one? That's bullshit. Just for everyone in the room, that is bullshit. Because if that was the case, I would have been born with a trust fund. I am not the strongest. I'm not the strongest soldier, but I've been through plenty of shit. Right. So let me be clear on something. God doesn't cause pain to teach us some kind of lesson. That's not the answer. But God doesn't abandon us in our pain either. There's this line in Psalm 23. Anyone know Psalm 23? Any church kids in the room? No. Matt knows Psalm 23. He was a church adult. But it goes, even though I walk through the darkest valley, you are with me, right? And in King James it says, as I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I shall fear no evil. And yes, I did just sing Weird Al Yankovic. But notice something it doesn't say, though. It doesn't say that God keeps you out of the dark valley. It says that God is with you in the dark valley. Look, I quote scripture and all of a sudden I became a Sunday morning pastor. God doesn't abandon us in our hardest times. God is there to comfort us. If you let God, right? God's not gonna come to you without consent. But if you let God, God will comfort you in those hardest times. No sacred text across any faith tradition, if it promises you that you will never have hard times, it's not true. But there's another phrase, and it's not in my notes because I thought it was too cheesy because I saw it on a pillow at my grandma's house whenever I was a kid. But it's Romans 8:28. It says, God uses all things for good for those who love God. We've all heard it, right? And if you haven't, you heard it now. And that's not saying that God automatically prevents bad things from happening. It means that when bad things happen, if we have a relationship with our higher power, it can be transformed to have meaning. And that's a very different story. It's not faith that says nothing bad will happen to you, but a faith that says you won't be alone when it comes. And all of us know this because life happens. People go through breakups or addiction or job loss. I know because we have heartaches at the end, right? We're all going through that shit. Housing insecurity, medical issues, things come up in life. But they are often the moments that transform into something better than we could have ever imagined. Anyone in here in a happy relationship that wishes they were still with their ex? Anyone? Or recovery happens because of the addiction. Or when we lose our job, there's someone in the room that lost their job and got a new job making 30% more. Right? These are the things that happen after pain. Even if in the middle of things it feels broken, God isn't done. God can take whatever was never meant for good and still begin to shape it into something new out of it. So no, God doesn't send the pain, but God will meet us in it. God will walk with us through it, and somehow over time, God will begin to do something with it. That's a few years ago. Well, it was actually after the situation where I was investment real estate. I lost my job at the first church that I worked at. I lost it. I was a little too gay. They didn't understand the difference between OnlyFans and Grindr, but that's their problem. Katie can vouch. They also accused me of outing Katie, and she had like a girlfriend at the time, I think. Yeah. She did vouch for me. Yeah, she did. Sorry, you should have submitted the report that said I'm a lesbian now, right? Like, but I had lost this job, and it was so painful, and I landed in Chicago, and like things are easier. And I will tell you something about that scenario. Just this week, I met with a pastor friend that lost a job in the same situation, and I was able to tell him it would be better. 6 months ago, something similar happened. A pastor friend had a very egocentric lead pastor, and people were liking her better than the lead pastor, and so she got pushed to the side in a painful way. It was a year ago, actually. Now she's at a church that loves and supports her. But in that moment, she didn't know it, but because I had been through it, I was able to walk with her. Whenever I sit with someone new in sobriety and they just have that look, that look of someone like day 2, where they just look devastated, right? And you can tell them, oh, I know that feeling. If we would have never had addiction, we would have never been able to sit next to people that were going through that pain. God does something with our pain, not because the pain is good, but because the universe refuses to waste our pain. So what do we do when we feel that pain, right? When we're feeling pain, we actually have 3 pretty common responses to pain. And so the first one is one that we're all probably pretty familiar with: numbing it. Anyone like to numb their pain? We like to distract, we like to scroll, we like to drink, we like to use, we overwork, we avoid. This is essentially what addiction is. It's a coping mechanism with really bad side effects. Go to therapy, sister. But we can try to numb the pain in other ways other than just using. Sometimes we even use spirituality to numb our pain. We can numb pain through toxic positivity. We can numb the pain through people pleasing. But trusting in a spirit of the universe or a higher power can change things on our terms, right? When we do that. We say, God has my back. We put it on God to somehow change things without doing anything to change ourselves. Or maybe we're just numbing it with this overly positive version of reality because we're not willing to face the version of reality that we're currently sitting in. Another way we numb it is by overworking or being too productive. We keep ourselves busy enough, just distracted enough. We don't have to feel the pain. But here's the problem. If you numb the pain, you miss the message, and you often make it even worse. That shit will catch up with you. A second way that many of us address pain is we try to manage it. This is where most people live with pain. We don't ignore the pain, but we do try to control it. Maybe we tweak things or optimize things. We self-improve our way out of things. I think my story earlier, that's what I was doing. I'll just get better habits. I'll be more disciplined. I'll try harder. But we're still holding on to the same life. I tried to optimize a life that just wasn't working. But no amount of optimization can fix something that needs transformation. We try to do the emotional equivalent of looks maxing. Anyone know what looks maxing is? It's been all over my algorithms lately. I think it makes me want to take a hammer to my face. But it's the emotional equivalent of taking a hammer to your face. And at the end of the day, it's still us thinking that we can control things. But the big book has a few things to say about what happens when we try to manage everything. It calls it running the show. It explicitly says we had to quit playing God. When we try to manage things, we often end up in worse pain when it doesn't pan out the way that we had hoped. If we pray, the big book talks about, I've said the word big book more than normal tonight. The big book talks about like being a spoiled toddler making a list for Santa Claus. Well, what happens when we don't get everything we demanded? Doesn't work well. What happens when a toddler doesn't get her pony? I wouldn't know because I got a pony. But the third thing, and if you can't tell by the build-up, the third and final thing is actually the thing that I would recommend to do with pain. We can listen to it. But oftentimes this is the hardest one. But it's the only one that really works because it requires honesty. It requires slowing down long enough to ask, what is this pain trying to tell me? What isn't working and what needs to change? And that's where purpose truly begins. It doesn't begin in clarity, and it rarely begins in honesty. And even if we're listening to God and learning from pain, that doesn't make it easier. There's real grief in any time of change, and pain still hurts. Change doesn't just require courage, it requires grief. Because when something changes, you're not just gaining something new, you're losing something old. That might be an identity or a version of our lives. It might be an expectation or a version of reality that no matter how hard it was, we were still comfortable there. And sometimes we're not just letting go of what was, we're letting go of who we thought we were going to be. And sometimes that hurts, even when the change is the right thing to do. So if the question we're asking in this series is, who am I now? Sometimes the answer doesn't start with confidence, it starts with pain. Pain reveals what's not working. Pain exposes what needs to change, and pain invites us into something new. And God meets us right there. Not to shame us, not to rush us, but to walk with us as we figure out who we are becoming. The thing we're trying to escape might be the thing trying to lead us into the next stage of our lives. Now, I'm going to invite Katie up for some special music.
So I was thinking about why I like this song. This is a Brandi Carlile song, for sure. And I think I like it for a lot of different reasons. She asks some questions about God, the universe, and then comes to find answers in love. Connects those questions with love, and then ultimately returning to yourself. And so I think when we're alone in bed at night, going to sleep, we have to be able to find love there. When we are by ourselves, love, forgiveness for ourselves instead of numbing things. Oh my God.
Well, Katie's sitting on a mountain.
So
This is what happens when you're friends with me.
So this is returning to myself by Brandi Carlile. Is there some free washing inside? Their fingers washing till fire dies. How is a lonesome holy grail? And if we really come and go, I know that I find myself. Oh, keeper, how I love you. I love you. Return to myself, such a long it's the only thing to do. Oh, it's the only thing. It's an evolving and turning. Oh, what an easy way to be. Only kneeling at the altar, praying my need. Let me break myself apart instead scatter to my birds like a burial at sea. Oh, my darlings, how I love you. I love you and you and you. Returning to myself is such a lonely thing. It's the only thing to do. There's no pilgrimage until a soul returns to hold another's hand, and only then knows that life is like a storm, only skipping for a time. Oh, it never really holds its own. We never see the other side. And I was born to love you. I love you and you and you. Returning to myself is such a lonely thing.
This is a badass bitch, right? Awesome. And so now it's time for our guest storyteller segment. This is someone, if you've been here more than once, you know. It's someone who has a great recovery journey. So let's welcome Peter to the stage. I'm going to Drew Barrymore you. Just kidding.
I had to think about that for a second.
So first of all, Peter, just for anyone who hasn't had a chance to get to know you, just tell us who you are real quick. Who's Peter?
So right now, I'll start it this way. So I'm an alcoholic. My first sober date is June 20th of 2023. And my second sober date is March 2nd of last year, 2025. What helps my sobriety is not being in the corporate world that troubled Seth. It did the same thing to me, brought me to my knees, contributed to my bottom. And so for 3 years, I've been the fundraising manager for a homeless shelter up in Rogers Park. And to do something that pays virtually nothing, but I'm passionate about, and it makes a difference, and I see the results of my work every time I walk into the shelter. That's all the psychological food that I need, is that type of work, but it doesn't keep me sober. And so the pain I'm going to refer to is my relapse on March 1st of last year. It's so funny how the book predicts so many things. So January 2025, I do a lead at the Sunday morning Center and Halstead meeting, and I am talking about is I have got sobriety figured out. I go to meetings virtually almost every day. I don't have a sponsor. I have no relationship with my higher power, but I'm good. I'm going to figure it out. And then 6 weeks later, I'm in a casino at a comedy show with 2 normie friends, and, a drink ends up in my hand, and I go, delicious. And all right, so we all know that story. I remember driving home from the casino that night in tears because I knew exactly what happened. It was just my alcoholic mind found an opening, and man, I had no willpower, none, zero. So it was that. So the pain was that humbling moment. And a very good friend of mine from the room visited me 2 weeks before from Los Angeles. And that next day I called that friend, Roman, and I said, I need you to be my sponsor. I fucked up badly. And then what he told me is you will tell our group on Tuesday night that you relapse and that you're at day 2. The group I've been with since like day 5. And I said, please don't. He goes, oh, no, fuck no, you are doing it. That's exactly what the humiliation and the humbling of a relapse is, right? Is you confess it. And to somebody like me who has an ego the size of Lake Michigan, I mean, I felt like I was run over by a dump truck when I had to confess my sins. And then 6 weeks later, I confessed it to another virtual meeting in which I was a secretary. And the response to my being honest and telling a group of 90 people that I had relapsed 6 weeks before is my secretaryship was removed from me. I was removed from the entire service team. And that to me, and it wasn't done in a professional, it was done in a way that was very hurtful, very hurtful. So, and then you read the big book, right? And it predicts everything like that, right? Oh, I was so standard big book cocky, 18 months.
I was talking to a guy a few weeks ago, and I was like, well, you know what the big book says, because he almost quoted it with the way he was feeling. He goes, I don't care what the big book says.
Exactly. So here's the crazy part. So here's where your higher power, and still no higher power. So here's where the higher power steps in and helps me in a way that I never imagined. Is a mutual friend introduces me to Seth, and we have coffee, and he tells me about his idea to build Free, and because it's right before all of you went to Denver in April of last year, so it's the end of March. So I was 4 weeks into my new, and I count me in, and so that's why I've been around since the very beginning. And what I learned is I didn't have a connection to a higher power in my recovery, because the only road I knew to a higher power was that traditional Catholicism that you just can't think of that God helping an old gay drunk, right? It doesn't happen. And what I've learned in this room is how Seth can talk about the nativity story of Joseph as simply a man who accepted the fact that his girlfriend got pregnant by another guy who just happened to be God, and to, he
was a real cock.
Yeah, a real
cock.
A real cock. And that he connected the nativity story to recovery. And then think about what Pastor Lindsay did last week. She told the resurrection story of Jesus, the women who met him at the tomb, and the disciples afterwards as simply a collapsed community of non-belief that needed a miracle from a higher power for the community to reform in a church with the 12 apostles in that room that was the beginning of what is the largest religious community on earth, which is the Catholic Church, right? And that's kind of what we have done here, right? Is we started from, a bunch of guys in this room, in July of last year, or June.
It looked a little different then.
Yeah, it looked a little different. A bunch of guys in a room, just like the apostles, and what are we doing? We're building a community. And that's getting more and more believers every time. And then the other crazy thing is, I actually go to Buddhist meetings because I am trying to get to my higher power through Buddhism, not recovery drama, but just traditional Buddhism. And I'm a novice, anything like that. And yet, I hope you're okay if I give you another compliment.
Oh, please don't.
Okay.
I was waiting to correct some of your stuff, actually.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
yeah.
So at some point a month ago, Seth made a comment that Buddhism says attachment is a source of suffering, or suffering can be caused by attachment. I had never heard that in, of all things, all the Buddhism meetings, but that's exactly what my problem is right now. My problem is I've been struggling to keep this homeless shelter open now for about 4 or 5 years, and because of city funding fuck-ups, we may not last. And my attachment to this shelter has pulling me to a place of hopelessness, self-pity, and self-righteous anger. And what does that do for me? The solution is a vodka tonic, and then 4, 5, 6, 7.
Yeah. So there's.
So all I'm saying is, and that was, so when he said it is, I am suffering because I am attached to that shelter, but I can't control it. So I had to take the serenity prayer now with everything with the shelter, and now I can move through it with a level of detachment that I'm going to be okay if it doesn't make it. It's all higher power stuff, everybody.
Yeah. Oh, I have a little guy right here.
Oh, okay.
Oh, you can hold it. So you were talking. I'm curious. I'm curious about that, that shift that happened, and that pain from that relapse of, I think I've got it. I'm doing recovery a la carte, right? What was your previous resistance to the concepts of? Because to a degree, I'm saying this to no one in the room. Your higher power, your sponsor is not your higher power, right? But there's still this resistance to kind of turning over, right? You didn't want the sponsor to tell you what to do. You didn't want to trust in the higher power. What changed in your mindset, and did it happen all at once? The sponsor thing happened all at once, right? You're like, okay, but the God thing is still a work in progress, right?
Very much so.
So tell us a little bit about your your thought process or your mental state, like before and after, and that shift. Some things quickly, some things slowly, right?
Well, you have referred to, in the New Testament, the conversion of Saul the Pharisee to Paul the Apostle. And remember, Saul was faithless, and that's what I was. Is I am an analytical thinker. I don't have any creativity, and you could put my faith, to use a term, you could put my faith into a shot glass. That's how much I have.
That's a fair amount.
Yeah. And so the only thing that, honestly, the only thing, even when after the relapse, the only thing that started me on a journey was when we all started to get together and talk about free, because my problem, and it still is the role of God in the 12 steps, starting with step 3, does not work for me. And look how adamantly I'm saying it now, right? I mean, it's just, and I know, I get it.
But I think there's something powerful there, because I think a lot of times, especially, I mean, I was a CPA, like an accountant, right? Like, I love things to make sense. I love for everything to have a place to go and a bucket to fall into, right? And so I think a lot of times pitfalls that a lot of us run into is when we think we have to figure it all out. That we have to have this like math equation that solves, the books have to balance, right? But there's power in curiosity is what I'm hearing.
Yes.
Right? Like being open and exploring and seeing what paths can pan out, right? Wouldn't you agree with that? Like, you don't have to figure it out. You don't have to find the magic pill. You have to be curious and show up again and again, right? And it's a pretty simple formula there, right?
The relapse reminded me that the a la carte program didn't work at all. And that if I wanted to be sincere to my recovery and sincere and committed to whatever my program is I had to explore, I had to open the door of an opportunity for spiritual growth when it presented itself.
Yeah.
How could I, with why I relapsed, how could I say I'm in recovery and not jump in and see what free would have done for me? Because it's like the door was opened for me and I walked up to it, and all I had to do was walk through this door to a new road on spiritual growth for my recovery that's helping me get through, in my own mind, is some crazy shit.
Yeah. So there was this guy early in recovery that goes, "This ain't Burger King. You can't have it your way." And I think about that every time when there's paths being carved. So, for someone, that relapse is over a year ago now, right? And I know for a lot of us, just getting a few days or, what advice would you give to someone that's trying to learn from a relapse, right? Because you learned from your relapse, right? What advice would you give to someone who maybe is just through a relapse or just getting sober, or maybe is on the verge of a relapse, right? Like, what did you learn so they didn't have to? What's like 1 or 2 things that you'd like them to know before we wrap up tonight?
Don't think that the program that you thought was working for you prior to your relapse, that same program is going to work again and you're going to stay sober. A relapse is an opportunity to reopen your curiosity about the program, because there are so many different other paths on everybody's recovery journey. And if you're open to going to new meetings, talking to new people, reading new materials. That's what I started to do on my recovery, and that's what the relapse reminded me, and that's the message, is a relapse is an opportunity for new curiosity about a new program for each of you.
Yeah, that same old man used to say, "Don't waste a good relapse." Don't waste a good relapse. Like, what can we learn from it and how can we grow? So awesome, everybody. Let's hear it for Peter. Thank you. Thank you, buddy.
Thank you.
See, look, I chose Peter with some little ducks. Chicks, whatever. It's the only picture you're going to find of Peter and Chicks. The rest are Peter and Palm Springs. I must have been in a mood whenever I put together the slides today. I was feeling feisty. So the reason free exists, the reason we can leave the doors open, the reason we can explore what recovery looks like together and have coffee before is because our community shares generosity. Our community shows up and keeps us going. And as we work towards building what we see as our future, which is a recovery hub on the north side of Chicago, ask anyone that was in Denver this week. They'll tell you all about what the model we're following looks like. The way we do that is through generosity. So you can scan the code, or there's a cash drop box in the back. And so now we've come to the time for heartbreaks. So heartbreaks are those things that might just be a little too heavy to carry on your own or to carry out of the room with you. This is your chance to be vulnerable. And there's always a pause between heartbreaks because they can get a little heavy. So just take those opportunities to really pray and meditate for the person that shared the heartbreak before. So we'll open the floor for heartbreaks.
Thanks. Hi, everybody. My name's... Is this on?
Is it on? I think so. Yeah, you're good, Ed. Yeah.
My name's Ed, and I just been feeling today, first of all, anybody who's on psychiatric medication, my psychiatrist adjusted my medication. I think it's having it's always difficult when that happens. So I'm feeling a little out of sorts, I think. I just want to get out of myself to say that I have anxieties over my long-term housing and employment situations and the viability, because housing is getting really expensive in the city of Chicago. The viability of me, having independent housing or long-term housing is something that I'm grappling with that I haven't really had to grapple with before in life. And so it's a real difficult thing for me at this point in life to have to be facing this challenge. I'm not used to it, and it scares me. So anyways, just your thoughts on that. Everybody out there who's struggling with housing, just think of them.
Absolutely.
Matthew Alcoholic. I really appreciate the message and the speaker. I am on the verge of throwing away my relationship or in the past I've thrown away my sobriety. And I feel so stressed at work. And my brother, who I love and care about, just stabbed me in the heart. And I don't know, he was getting sober, and I had Seth coming into the pawn shop and making payments because I bought him a computer, and I thought when he got 6 months, I'd give it to him. And he's tried to strangle me to death, so I'm having a really hard time not hating him and not resenting him and not wanting to just spiral out of control over this. I don't want to hear you're not justified or whatever. I don't want to fucking hear it. It makes me shake with anger. I'm glad I came here tonight, and I appreciate the lead.
Absolutely. Thanks for sharing.
Hi, guys. After 3 weeks of functionally being on the street, I am faced with a very familiar task of finding out where I'm going to go next. So I just appreciate some prayers on those grounds. They always seem to work. I'm not terribly worried. I always figure something out, but it's never a fun place to be. So.
Is there any other heartbreaks this evening? Well, we'll be praying for everyone in their heartbreaks, and just know you can reach out to me or people in this room as you're navigating stuff. Maybe if there was something that you didn't feel comfortable sharing in the room, you can talk to Peter or Louise afterwards, and they'll be happy to sit with you and hear those. So before we leave, let's finish with the third step prayer, but make it in A version. So if you will join me in the third step prayer. God, take my will and my life. Guide me in my recovery and show me how to live clean or sober, right? Don't you usually say that after the awesome. Thank you all for coming out tonight. If you want to stick around afterwards, there's some coffee. Connect with people and invite your friends next week. Thank you.